broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this edition of Gun Guy Radio is supplied by LA Police Gear, lapolicegear.com.
Welcome to episode 112 of Gun Guy Radio. This is the podcast that shines a positive light on the firearms lifestyle. I'm your host, Jake Chaland, and this is your weekly dose of positive firearms talk without the politics. And this week we have a roundtable edition of Gun Guy Radio with special guests Aaron Krieger from the We Like Shooting podcast and the We Like Shooting Reviews gun and gear site. Hey, Aaron, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
And we also have a special guest, Troy Clopton of God and Guns podcast. Hey, Troy.
Hey, how's it going tonight?
A few announcements before we get going. We're looking for some interns here at the Firearms Radio Network. Interns is another word for volunteers. And we're looking for a web tech wizard to help out Brad with the websites, and also an SEO magician. If you can have any of those skills, email me, jake@firearmsradio.tv. And we're also looking out for some help over at the Firearms Insider Gun and Gear Reviews site. We're looking for a person to help with the review process, submitting reviews and whatnot. So if you're interested in that, you can send an email to mike@firearmsinsider.tv. And we're also giving away a Bond Arms backup in 45 ACP, giving this away May the 4th. So all reviews have to be submitted by April 30th. And speaking of the Firearms Insider, that's how you enter. You submit a Firearms Insider gunner gear review by going to firearmsinsider.tv/submit. And Brownells helps make this episode of Gun Guy Radio possible. Selection, service, and satisfaction. Find it all at Brownells. GunGuyRadio.com/satisfaction. So we're into the main topic now, and we're talking backyard prepping. Prepping and food storage for the common man, I guess you might say. The person that just has a backyard, not necessarily living on a farm, but someone that wants to take some proactive steps and preparing for maybe some worst-case scenarios, or just maybe living a little more off the land type of deal, paying a little less for groceries. Could be a lot of reasons. Troy, you just recently did a show on God and Guns about about this topic.
Yeah, we did a brief overview of prepping, not in depth as this one is a little bit more slanted towards. But I got into prepping about 2009. But growing up on a farm where I knew how to pretty much garden, that's where we were stuck in until we were big enough to drive a tractor or anything fun. But no, it was a fairly good show. I think we had some good reviews from it and some good feedback.
What's your knowledge of gardening? Do you guys currently do a garden every year? Do you do any canning?
We do. We've started back into it. Growing up was always a garden. Always one for us to work in. A lot of sweet corn, a lot of tomatoes, a lot of the the staples of country food in my area. And in the last 3 years or so, my wife and I have started working on a garden again. We've not been doing it a whole lot since we were married, but we've got all the tools and have everything set up to do it. Just pretty much it was just some tomatoes and basic staples the last few years. Not as much as Aaron has been doing, but Aaron's probably can share a whole lot more than I can.
Well, it's my experience with gardening is what I like to refer to as urban gardening. I live in just on the outskirts of Detroit, so we have to really utilize the land that we have. My wife being a vegetarian, it really, you really start planting a lot of different kinds of foods and vegetables. I tried to trick her one year. I put a cow in the ground thinking maybe I could grow a cow out of a tree or something. And it didn't work. So, yeah. I was like, hey, it's beef in the ground. We can eat it. She didn't buy it. And I also told her when we first started dating that because chickens basically eat rocks. If you're familiar with chickens, they basically just eat anything that you throw on the ground, pebbles, rocks, small children. So I mean, they're basically just a plant. But again, she didn't buy it. But our ultimate goal, being in the city, is to move out of the city, get it like about 10 acres, and be able to have a nice garden, a nice little farm, have chickens. And there's another nice thing about this: the cities have changed ordinance here. Is you can actually have of chickens, just no roosters. So you can have 3 to 7 chickens depending on your local ordinance, and they just make mad amount of eggs. So if you like eggs, and chickens are low maintenance. Again, you can just throw anything on the ground and they'll eat it. Mm-hmm. Which is really nice. But yeah, when we get into it, I have some tips and tricks for starting a garden. Real simple stuff in an urban setting. So when we get there, but yeah, my experience with gardening is a lot of different vegetables, a lot of in a small amount of space, because that's the key. For people in the country like Troy, he has the ability to obviously not throw a tractor down, but you've got some space out there to grow corn, which is not the easiest thing, because corn, you need a little bit more space for corn. Yeah. I've tried that. I tried growing corn once. It grew like 3 feet really fast, and it just stopped. So I'm like, oh, okay. But for people who have 10 feet by 10 feet, you don't even know how much space you have. You could grow so many things in that small space.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into some different methods. I guess I'll touch on my background real quick. Grew up on a 5-acre farmette in the country, and we always had a garden with tomatoes, cucumbers, winter squash. Sometimes just a variety of things. I can't even think right now what all we grew, but we never did any canning or anything like that until I got married, and then my wife and I started to experiment with canning. Growing up, her family canned and stuff, so we'll talk a little bit about how to raise things, and like you said, are in a small space, and pretty much any backyard, and then talk about how we store that food once harvest time comes. So. Backyard gardening, let's do a little section here, backyard gardening for newbies or dummies. How a lot of people are intimidated when they think about growing a live plant. Maybe people have tried it before and they killed it.
Right. Start off with a fish. That's what I always say. Buy yourself a fish. If you can keep a fish alive, you can keep a plant alive. It's the same concept, just more water or less water.
Yeah.
But with here, and let me lay down what I do when I start a garden. There's 3 things you can do. 3 things you need to do. You need to section off your garden. You need to kill anything that's in that space where the garden is, because when you start growing your plants, and you used to have grass there, if the grass starts growing back in, you don't know how to weed. You don't know, is that a bean plant, or is that just some grass growing in? So there's some great tricks. Depends on how you really want to handle it. You can get some Roundup, and you can spray your whole area with Roundup. But don't do it and then plant your stuff. Obviously, you're going to want to wait a little bit. And supposedly the Roundup eventually dissipates, and you're all set. You can lay down some. That's not the way we did it. That was a suggestion to us. Another way you can get it's like a black heavy cloth that you can roll out, and it kills everything underneath it. And you cut holes for the plants you want to grow in those spaces, so it is not being choked out. We've tried that in the past. It worked out fine. But the best thing that we've ever done, and this is what I would always suggest to people, is go out and get some cardboard boxes and lay them on the ground and pile dirt on top of that. So what you're doing there is the cardboard is choking and killing everything underneath it. The dirt that you just put on top is fresh dirt, so you don't have to worry about plants or anything growing out of it that you haven't put into it. And the really nice thing is the cardboard eventually just disintegrates. It goes away. So you're going to, and plants that are growing can actually go through the cardboard if it's still present. So you're going to get the nutrients that's in the old soil. You got your new soil, and it's all going to just become one big mush pile because the cardboard is eventually going to go away anyhow. That's the perfect way that we start a garden.
So you doing a raised bed here, or just a flat bed on the ground, or what?
Basically on the ground. I mean, it starts off raised maybe an inch or two, but eventually over the course of the year and weathering, it just flattens back out to the same level as everything else. I mean, you try to put a border on because it was a city. I had an old fence, so I pulled the boards off the fence and framed it up using that. So I knew where the boundaries of the garden were.
You're in Detroit, so you got tons of old lumber there. You just pull it off your neighbor's house.
Yeah. They didn't appreciate it, but I'm like, go away, I got a gun. And they were fine with that. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And then, one of the big things, and this is just a very old concept, square foot gardening. You make a square, it's actually a foot, and that's your space. You're gonna grow one thing in that space. And then you make another square, and you're going to grow something else in that space. And you plant usually 2 to 4 items, depending on size, within that foot. I mean, if you're doing carrots, you're going to plant like 12 carrots in a row, or it's in multiple rows. So you're going to have lots of carrots. Of course, the issue with carrots is you got to weed them out so you don't actually grow all those carrots, which is always sad because they need space to grow. So you don't want them to choke each other. It's not that kind of party.
Yeah,
right.
There's a good. About square foot gardening. I put a link in the show notes. It's one that I got several years ago, and we used it when we had a smaller area where we were living about 4 or 5 years ago. It's called All New Square Foot Gardening. I bought the previous book for a penny on Amazon.
You paid too much. No, I'm just kidding.
Big investment.
Plus shipping, right?
Yeah. Oh, I've got that Amazon thingamajigger where you get
Prime. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so it worked out. But it's a great resource if you're just starting out, because it tells you the soil depth you need, how deep to plant the seeds, and how to set up your small area garden and what plants you can put with each other. Because if you got a small area to work with, you got to make sure you've got the right plants in the right proximity to each other, so you don't have them shadowing each other or whatever.
Right, and not only that, but like if you put the squash next to the zucchini and the cucumber, they're going to cross-germinate. You come out with some really spiky or funky cucumbers and some really sweet-tasting zucchini. But because they're all from that same kind of family, you got to watch out for that kind of stuff. And that's another thing too. Like if you plant zucchini or any of the vining plants. When I say vining, what I mean is when zucchini grows, I'm just going to use that as an example. It's a vine that grows off the ground. It can stretch out 8, 10, 12 feet out. So if you put it in the center of your garden, it's going to go right over all the other things that you've already planted. Great place to put it is on the outside edge, and then you can actually kind of direct which way it all happens.
Right. You can even utilize some of your yard if you want to, if you don't mind some of your grass dying. Speaking of zucchini, we did bush zucchini plants, so they basically stay in like
H or W.
W. They basically stay in like a 3-foot square area. Once they get full size, so they're fairly compact for zucchini. And there's also for cucumbers, there's bush variety cucumbers or vine or ones you can train to climb. That's the other thing. You can go up as well
or down,
or
you could go. I mean, you could get like I'm sorry to interrupt, but you can get like my wife. She has a thing that goes on the back of a door that shoes fit into. You can actually grow plants, tomatoes or zucchini, and the vines will come down. So you're saving space. You're working in a vertical space versus a horizontal space, which, so boom, you're saving tons of space that way.
Yeah, I usually don't grow zucchinis in my bedroom, but, that's a good idea.
You'd want to hang it outside because it does need a little bit more sun, especially in our garden.
Take the door and hang it outside. Sit outside.
Yeah, the love cavern. We don't want to grow things in there.
So
except children, I guess.
So in my backyard, I picked up, I think they're 2x12s, 8 feet 8 feet long, and I made a square.
You picked them up? Wow, you're pretty strong.
Yeah, 2 at a time even.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
look at that. Look out, ladies.
So I threw that down, and then I did a 3-part mixture of peat moss, vermiculite, which is a mineral, and then compost. And I mixed it.
Did you buy the compost? Or did you actually go and buy compost?
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Right. I did, because we still don't have a compost pile, and we probably should. That's another thing we could talk about. You can get those like 50-gallon drum compost turner machines for your backyard and make your own compost.
You just throw it into a pile in your backyard.
Right.
I mean, if you really want to go, if you're really into prepping, what you need to do is lay down a hose and a water hose. Throw a compost pile on there. Inside that compost, it can get up to 120 degrees in there. You run water through there, you have hot water all of a sudden. So there's another possibility. I need to take a shower and there's no hot water available. There you go. That's one of the possibilities.
But you smell like compost, right?
Hopefully the hose is insulated, but I do smell like compost, oddly enough. But yeah, you can just have a compost pile. The convenience of the barrel is you can turn a lever and it spins it. But if you can lift a 8x10, you should be able to grab a pitchfork and turn your compost. Yeah, I mean that's a really good point though about spatial issues.
So I built this 8x8 basically square, and then I like you said, I squared it off into foot sections. And then, but you're right, you really have to put the right things next to each other, because we've made the mistake of not doing that. Mm-hmm. And then some things will choke other things out. So, researching what you plant, maybe for newbies, start with simple things like, tomatoes, cucumbers. What other plants would be good starters?
I'm a big fan of pep. Hey, you know what? If you're a newbie, the best thing you can do is go to Home Depot and buy a plant that's already or just, they start plants there. You just go and buy them and you plant them in the ground. And what comes out is your care, but they started the hard part. They planted the seed, they put the effort in, started in a greenhouse,
right?
So you can get your spring garden in.
Right, and let me interrupt real quick. So this episode's releasing in March, so like for us up north, we have time to still start some stuff by seed. But you may be in other regions where you may not have time for that, depending on your growing season. So, buying already started plants, or just for convenience, it might be a good option for you.
Yeah, and in my area, and maybe in your area too, listeners, obviously not Jake, the cities have really good recycling programs where you put out the big brown paper bags and they come by in the trucks and they take them. If you find out where they take them, it's called SOCCO here. I don't know what it stands for. It's just a lot of letters to me. But they're all basically the same letter, so it was pretty easy to remember. They do all, they just, they turn them, it's all leaves and all yard waste in there. So it's really nice that you can just go there and they give it to you, you get the end product for free. So, you can fill up a back of a pickup truck and you can use it in your garden. So you get free, basically it's composted dirt without the vegetable matter in it.
Yeah, or at a deep discount. Locally here, we can go to a local dump, and that's where the waste management runs out.
Yeah, your house is a dump.
And
what?
It is.
Sorry.
But it's not free, but it's a deeply discounted compost. So.
Yeah, and I mean that's a great way to go. I remember filling up the back of my wife's CRV. Laid down a tarp and just dumped it in there. Went 3 loads in. And it's great stuff.
Or get something going with your neighbors. Get some of your neighbors planting gardens, and then if you're planting at the same time, you can just have a truck back into one of your driveways, bring all you need, and then wheelbarrow it, wherever you need it.
Totally. Yeah, people dump dirt all the time. You can look on Craigslist; people have dirt on there all the time. It's a great way to go. And there's companies out there that sell organic seeds. You know what? Heritage. Let's talk heritage tomatoes. Those things are the nastiest looking things in the world. I'm sorry. I've grown accustomed to like normal, round, red, beautiful tomatoes. Heritage foods, I stay away from those. There's a reason why they make them look nice.
Well, the advantage of the heirloom type. You're talking about the heirloom type?
Yeah, heirloom. I'm sorry. Yes.
True. Yeah. The only advantage of those is you can grow them year after year if you save the seeds, whereas your beautiful tomatoes only last season.
So if you're really paranoid in the whole prepping thing, and you think that we might have a EMP, and basically the world ends, and then you have to regrow your seeds year after year, then you're going to want the heirloom seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but they just make the ugliest looking food ever. I'm sorry. I mean, they're giant, and they don't. You know what? Too, it's really interesting. I find the heirloom tomatoes are grainier and not as sweet as the tomatoes we have out now.
The hybrids, right? Because they've developed those to taste better, to have a better texture, I guess, or makeup. Yeah,
totally. They did a good job. Good job, engineers.
They can lay in the grocery store for a month, and they still are red.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. They're delicious. But if you let's move. I'm going to jump around here a bit because I want to talk about some other things too. I want to talk about reusable foods. And when I say reusable foods, I don't mean like you can eat it, regurgitate it, and cook with it again. I mean like garlic. If you have garlic in your fridge, like a big clump of garlic, you pop off one of those little cloves in there. You can throw that in the dirt. Boom, you're growing garlic. You're growing a whole new garlic plant, which will grow a brand new bulb just from that little thing. So if you like garlic and you want to grow that, there's something that's super easy to grow. Same with scallions or green onions, wherever you're from, whatever you call them. You can cut them down to the bulb part and throw them in water, like right in the window. Throw them in a glass of water, and it grows a completely new green onion scallion right there, which is pretty smooth. And another thing, this is something that we grew, and it just went out of control, and we love it, is chives. Chives are great. They come back year after year after year. They're super thick. They're super green, and they get fatter and bigger every year. And it's just you just walk out there with a pair of scissors, cut a big handful off, wash it off, and cook with it, and it's delicious. So, I mean, there's a lot of foods. And potatoes, you got a potato, and it's in your fridge. It's growing eyes or whatever potatoes grow, those little lumps on there, those gross little moles. Don't throw that potato away. Throw it in a big bucket of dirt. Deeper the better. And then it grows out. It grows more potatoes. You know what you do? You put more dirt on top of that, and more potatoes happen. That's the great thing about potatoes. Potatoes, onions, garlic, boom. You got a soup there. I'm eating it right now.
We have a lot of berries around here. So the property that we had bought a few years back is covered up in blackberries. And there's no maintenance to those. I mean, you have to mow them down every once in a while to get a fresh growth off them. But as far as maintenance, there's not a whole lot to it, and you get a lot of fruit for just the nuisance of them.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. We bought some blackberries from the store the other day. We got like a couple gourmet little stores around here, and I'm not even lying. The blackberries were about as big as the tip of my thumb, right? And my kids are like, "Oh, these are nice," and I'm like, "You don't understand." You go out into the woods and you start picking these things. They're about the size of your pinky, just the fingernail on your pinky, and you're getting cut up by the thorns on the plants. You're really working hard, but you get these giant ones from the store. They don't appreciate it.
Yeah,
I should just throw them into a big briar patch and say, "Get out, get out." But with berries, you have to be really careful because berries are susceptible to diseases. Blueberries, I'm working on a patch of blueberries this year, and the issue with that is getting the acidic level because blueberries are really acidic, and you have to have your pH balanced on your where it's growing has to be close to like a 6, which is 6 to an 8, which is a really high number. Your standard is a 1, or even a 0.5 or a 1 in your yard. So to get it to a 6, you can only move it. Like I want to say maybe 2 pH points per year. That's just no matter what you put in your ground. It's usually like a nickel-based substance, and that's what helps push it. But so certain berries are really hard to grow. And another thing too is you just can't just plant it like you just can't plant your berries and be like, okay, the plants are there. You got to make sure you have a male and a female. That's another thing too. Some plants require you having both sexes next to each other to populate its production of produce.
And berry light music.
Oh yeah.
So let's go back a little bit. So, figure out a place to plant. Maybe figure out, buy some books. Or, Troy's put a couple of websites in here as well for knowledge bases and resources. And there's also, Troy, you put in here clubs, gardening clubs, even 4-H. Different places.
You can be a volunteer for your children's 4-H, and you can learn everything they're learning as well. So it doesn't cost
goats, man. Yeah, and goats are great because I think of 4-H. I always think of the goats in 4-H. You can get milk from them. You can they eat your grass, so you don't have to ever mow. That's perfect stuff. Go get a goat. If you can get a goat, they have little pygmy goats too. They're like cute. They're like little dogs. Their tail wags when they see you, and then you cut their heads off and you eat them. It's beautiful.
Okay, and then we need to figure out how much time, what your growing season is. How much time you have. Now, if you're in Texas, you probably have all year. But
right.
If you're, in northern Illinois like myself or in Michigan, you're going to have a lot less time. And Troy, you're in Kentucky. That's going to be a little bit more than we have, but still you have.
Not this year, but
yeah. This year we probably have a little less.
Yeah, it's we still had we had snow. What was it 2 days ago? We had some snow blowing around here 2 days ago.
I think it snowed here today. To be honest with you,
degrees. I'm like, geez.
So if you're thinking about what seeds to plant, you're going to want to go to the seed catalogs or go to the websites and figure out what zone you're in. The U.S. is split into zones, and then that may dictate what you can plant. There's some things that you can't plant because your growing season may not be long enough, depending on where you live.
Well, and there's foods that are optional in regards to temperatures. But before I go there, I just also want to point out, if you're going to be growing something like tomatoes, you're going to want something with a lot of sun. You're going to want to, because tomatoes are a sun plant. They need to be full sun, and that really does make a difference. You don't want to get something that's not full sun in the sun because you can end up burning that plant.
Right.
But I want to talk about like something you could grow in the wintertime. You can grow kale in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
It's not and kale. I'll be honest, kale is really a thick, tough. It's like chewing on bark. But there's some tricks with kale. You take a rolling pin and you roll out kale if you got that, or you massage it. It breaks it down really easily, and you can make it's almost as good as lettuce. But kale on its own is, you can slap someone with it and they'll cry. I might even cry. You hit me with a piece of kale. Kale's brutal. But yeah, there's a lot of foods out there that will grow in the wintertime, even if it's just in your windowsill. You don't need a lot of space to grow certain foods. What always cracks me up is avocados. Everyone's like, oh, I want to grow an avocado tree because they get that big pit. And it takes an avocado tree is like a pine tree. They grow like 40 feet tall if no one's ever seen an avocado tree. So, that's a great idea, but really don't get your hopes up on that one.
Something you can do to extend your season is they've got these little greenhouses now that are like made out of PVC pipe and like a tarp. You can extend, you can start your seeds out or start out your seedlings in those even during your cold temperatures. You can keep a heat source in there or a pile of compost in there, as you were saying before, and add another month or so on each end of your growing season. And it's not a whole lot of investment, and it's not, you can take it down during the summertime. They're pretty portable.
Yeah, I think my neighbors are really big into growing because I see them pulling in all this growing equipment into their house all the time. So I can only assume that they're really big into, herbiculture of some sort. Herbiculture. Yeah, I don't know what.
Bringing in on the
good for them,
man.
That's a lot of reggae music coming out of there. I don't know.
So types of plants. Troy, I see you put in here also to consider if they contain omega-3 or omega-6 fatty acids and stuff like that.
Well, if you're talking about sustaining yourself off of a garden, which we really didn't get too specific in the early parts when I was putting these notes together. You need to have some kind of fats in your diet, and especially if you have children, they need fats for brain development and for just to keep weight on them. There's some plants I've listed in here that have some essential fats, the omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, and like sunflowers. Those are easy to grow. We can plant those things about anywhere. Yeah, the kids love them, and there's there's a lot of fat in there that can be helpful for that. So if you're thinking about trying to grow a garden that will sustain you, you want a real wide variety. You want something that's got more than just your carbohydrates in there. You need to get as much fat out of there as possible. And Aaron can probably tell us more about that since his wife's a vegetarian. I'm sure she's always focused on that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is proteins. You need proteins. And you just can't live on peanut butter, Yeah. It's a huge diet of beans and legumes of all sorts. We'll make a fajita, and for me, it's some meat, some cheese, and some vegetables. For her, it's vegetables and beans and cheese. And within the vegetables, we cut up some zucchini and cook that up, and red peppers and onions, all things that you can cook in your backyard. I mean, grow in your backyard. I'm sure you could cook them back there too, if you have a grill. But I wouldn't do it in the wintertime like right now. But yeah, I mean, it's you got to have a variety. It's a really good point. And then I want to also throw out that the baby goats again, because goats, they're low maintenance. They honestly are. They're like a dog. And you can get milk, so you can get protein from there. You can get dairy, you can get vitamin D, and again, you can just eat those cute little bastards. They're delicious. So
can you have goats in town and where you live?
I've seen. I was cruising around downtown Detroit, and they have a casino down. They actually have a bunch of casinos down there. But I was driving by one of the casinos. I like looking at the architecture in Detroit. Those houses are beautiful, and they're scary, and they're decrepit, and there's all points in between. And I stop at this stop sign, which is a rarity because no one ever stops at a stop sign or a stoplight in Detroit. And I look over my shoulder and I see a house, and it has like 50 goats and geese downtown Detroit. So yes, you can have goats. The long answer to your question, yes, you can have goats.
Yes.
Well, I think if you declare them a pet, you could probably say, well, these are pets. Although there might be one to spit out in the back, but.
That's right. They just go in a circle a lot.
So we should preference, any kind of animals like goats, chickens. Check with your local ordinances before ordering some.
Yeah, and seriously, and that's really weird too. My cousin, he was really big into growing turkeys and chickens and geese and goats, and you can order those things by mail. Like chickens, you could just get a box of baby chicks in there. It's crazy to think of that.
Chicken nuggets.
Yeah, basically. I mean, they're like popcorn when they come out. You just pop them in your mouth. This stuff's great. And it's cheaper than buying a full chicken. So boom. And also another thing too, which is hard to do these days because of a certain bacteria that's hitting but beekeeping. Honey is great. The byproducts of what bees can produce is and beekeeping is pretty low maintenance too. You just got to go in and scrape them every so often. There's a lot of cities that have ordinances against it, but I mean downtown New York City, you can't have a gun, but you can have bees. So
killer bees,
killer bees. So, well, you can only have 7 bees. Any more than that, then you're in danger of the SAFE Act. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking for something that the SHTF's kind of stuff, I would suggest goats, bees, and a good garden. And chickens, because they're all they're low maintenance, and you're not gonna be like, man, we don't have any food for them. You know what you do? The bees eat the whatever bees eat, which are like other plants and small things that bees eat. I watched the bee movie. They didn't really show what they ate in there. Goats eat grass. There's always going to be grass somewhere.
Wait.
They'll eat a bush. They'll eat a can.
Don't bees eat pollen? Don't they? Use flowers.
I guess they kind of carry it and they regurgitate it up, and it's like makes like sugar, and then they eat the honey. So you got to share the honey with them.
Yeah.
So,
chickens eat the dead bees too, because bees only live a short period of time. Their wings snap off, and then the chickens eat those. My brother has bees. And
it's not that hard. Get a couple boxes, throw some bees in there. I need a queen bee or a pheromone that smells like a queen bee. And they'll like, hey, what's up, baby? And they just repopulate themselves. It's great. You get some killer bees in there, mix it in. Those bees are mean, but they're great to have. I don't have a dog. I got killer bees. But all these animals, chickens, bees, goats, self-sufficient. Gardening, that's pretty. You can grow a staple with a small amount of space, as we pointed out earlier. Mm-hmm. But like you were saying, you got to have variety, and that's why I'm suggesting the other items as well. You have to have the omega-6 fatty acids. You have to have the carbohydrates. You have to have the proteins. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a show where we need Carol. She'd be like, you need the what is it? Kano caveman diet.
Paleo.
She always talks.
What?
Paleo diet? Yeah. Paleo. Fire good.
So another thing is to figure out how much to plant. I'm famous for overplanting, but so this can be more of a trial and error thing, especially if you're new at it.
Yeah, one zucchini plant. That's all you need. Honest to God. You plant 3, you're like, 3 plants. You're going to have so much zucchini, and it's going to just...
Right, because done. you buy a packet of seed, and you got all these seeds. You're like, well, I got to plant them. I have them, right?
Right, exactly. And another thing, too, you don't want your zucchini... some guy will walk up and look at my 8-foot zucchini, it weighs 200 pounds. Yeah, but you bite into it, it tastes like a tree. You want to get those things when they're small. So, and just a heads up on people who first-time growers of those things. Size matters. You don't want it too big.
Yeah, zucchini, you leave that plant alone for 4 days, depending on the time of year, and you'll have like you said, a 3-foot long zucchini. It's crazy.
Oh, I wanted to point out too. I totally forgot about it. We go to a farmer's market near here, and no one walks around with ARs. By the way, I know it's not a political show, but there's always those guys at the walking around like, well, it's open carry. Anyhow, you go to the farmer's market here, and it's really nice. There's a person who sells in these little paper bags, and it looks like a little golf ball, and what's inside it is praying mantis eggs, and you put that out in your garden. Birds don't find it because birds love those things, and when it hatches, you have probably about 1,000 praying mantis running around your garden, and those things will eat any invasive bug that you can imagine. Those things, plus they're just cool to look at too. So I would always suggest if you can find them, you can even buy them online, praying mantis or even ladybugs. Not the Chinese ladybugs though; those things are mean. Tell the difference between American ladybugs are red, and the Asian style are either orange or yellow. They actually bite.
Yeah,
people.
They bite, and they're a huge nuisance, especially around here. They're just like swarms of them.
Yeah, they come in the fall, and then you start about this time of the year. They start coming out of the cracks, heading back outside.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, ladybug, how cute! Ow, what the? It's like that's basically what an Asian ladybug is right there. Yeah.
So
throwing that out there.
Okay, so how much to plant, and then what else? Soil, location.
Can I go back just 1 second on the size of the garden? Because you guys were sort of focused on the small in-town type gardeners or people that don't have a lot of space. I mean, you can get a group of people like-minded together, other people, your friends that want to grow a garden. Maybe somebody's got a larger plot of land than you do, and you can work together and have a larger garden, share the tools, share the labor. So when you have good friends that'll actually pitch in and help. But and it's just it sort of holds each other accountable too. So I know in the past that we've shared a garden with the family. It's been a lot easier because everyone sort of chips in together and works on it, and you can share the tools and things together.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and you maybe have a relative with a bigger plot of land where you can put sweet corn or things that take up more space. That's what we do here. Where my studio is actually on the backside of my grandpa's farm, so we have plenty of land here where I can cultivate. And we've had sweet corn. We'll put the vines out here, because like Aaron was saying, vines can be very evasive and go everywhere.
Yeah, grapevines are terrible. I mean, they will just keep coming and coming and coming, and they rarely produce grapes. So I mean, if you want to make some like a nice rice and grape wrap stuff, with the leaves, they're great for that. But vines, I'm sorry to interrupt, but vines, they're completely invasive. So beware.
And I've put potatoes out here. Like back to vines, pumpkins. Pumpkins are fun.
To shoot.
For the fall time, for making pumpkin pie or making jack-o'-lanterns or whatever.
Who makes pumpkin pie?
Just decorating.
I hate pumpkin pie.
What?
Nasty.
You're off the show. Go away.
It's terrible. I mean, who wants to? It's like making let's make some sort of vegetable pie. Let's make zucchini pie. Let's make squash pie. No, it sounds terrible, and they're all from the same family. Pumpkin pie. Just because you dump like 50 pounds of brown sugar in there, you suddenly have a pie. Why don't you just
don't forget the whipped cream. The whipped cream. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
it's like sweet potatoes.
The other thing we can touch on is if you're a homeowner and you're landscaping. Think about planting fruit trees. Think about grapes. Grapevine. Things that are perennials. Things that
apple trees are great. They flower in the spring.
And cherry trees, pear trees, peaches,
and those grow in most weather conditions. So that's really nice too.
Right,
you're gonna have a harder time with citrus. So
you can get dwarf-sized fruit trees as well if you don't have a lot of area. And you can
they prefer to be called small trees. People of smallness. Munchkin trees, not midget trees. Yeah, let's just be completely offensive. The trees are now crying.
I was talking about plants.
Jake, you're going to get a ton of emails from a bunch of trees. Just be like, why you got to be picking on us? You're not PC, man.
So
just throwing it out there.
So I guess let's talk about foods that are maybe more better suited for storage, for long-term storage, like for canning or potatoes. You can store in a cold basement and stuff like that.
That's true. Yeah. The worst food in the absolute world. The one food I like, no matter what age I've ever been, I've always hated. It's not like because sometimes your palate changes as you grow older. And this thing is never. I always taste, and I might tell you what it tastes like, and you tell me what it is. When I bite into this thing, it tastes like it's dirt. It tastes like actually physical dirt, and it's something that's canned. Can anyone guess what that is? No, by the silence. A beet. Canned beets taste like dirt. It tastes like earth. And it's the one thing I hate, but everyone seems to love to can them. And let's dump like 50 gallons of red dye number 5 in there. What's up with that? I don't know. What's up with that? Like, I'll eat a fresh beet. That's delicious. Or no, I'm thinking of a radish. Radishes are good. I like radishes.
So what are some common things that you can can? And I guess canning, let's explain what that is. That's taking glass mason jars and cooking whatever it is you're going to put it in there, and then you put a pressure seal on that glass canning jar, and basically, it's sealed up just like it's kind of sealed up just like something you'd buy from the store, and then you can keep that for maybe up to a year or maybe even a couple of years, depending on what's in there.
I think 5 years is usually my mark. Once they start, if it turns black in there, then it's probably done. But if it's nothing's turned black, you can still eat it. Unless it started off black, then you're just it's like a gamble. It's like, oh, maybe.
So
right?
So what are some common things? Beans, green beans.
Green beans, and they're easy to grow too. So that's and when you say cook, you don't have to like cook them until they turn to mush. You could just blanch them. Do a quick and by blanching, it's you throw them in boiling water, or you throw them in water. Once the water begins to boil, you throw them into an ice bath. So it cooks, but then it stops cooking really quick. Because if you cook something and pull it out and it sits in the hot water, while it's still in the hot water, it's still going to continue to cook. So you want to put in that ice bath, and it stops the cooking right there. So you're going to seize it right at that perfect point of where you want it to be cooked. Then you can put it into a jar, put the top on, throw it in the boiling water, put the pressure top on, and seal it up. So you get that perfect vegetable.
Because basically we're killing the bacteria before we can it, right?
Right, and you also want to boil the jars and the lids too separately before you put anything in there to help. Because if you get, I do this when I can. I make jelly every year, or jam, and you got to do that with that. Otherwise, you'll get bacteria that forms in there. And if you get bacteria that forms in there, then you give that jar to someone you know because you don't want to eat it. I always gave my brother. I made like 24 jars of jelly last year. And I gave my brother probably 6 of them, because they're saying, what am I going to do with all that jelly besides, eat a lot of PBJs? And I go over to his house one day, and just to visit, walked in unannounced, like I always do, kind of like a Kramer. And there he is, just like eating the jelly out of the jar. I'm like, come on, at least put some bread on there. That's nasty. And it's funny too, because a lot of people don't realize this, but when you go out and you're out in the field and you're picking food, and you're picking berries and stuff, and you bring them in the house, sure, you may rinse them off, but when you throw them in that pot, there's probably bugs and stuff in there. Sometimes that happens, you're like, it all looks like it's an extra protein. I think the World Health Organization, there's another thing for preppers. The World Health Organization said, if you need food, eat bugs. So grab a shovel and start digging. Turn some rocks over, you got a meal.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about how we can fry up grasshoppers we find in the backyard. Fry up slugs, snails?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. What would I've never had a snail or a slug. I don't know. I guess garlic butter, and garlic's easy to grow. You have a goat, you can make some butter. Boom! Look at that. You're gourmet all of a sudden. It's like 5-star backyard. It could be your own TV show, Jake.
All right. So green beans. What else can we can?
You can can about anything if you properly prepare.
Yeah, I've seen canned apples. I've seen a canned chicken. You ever seen a canned chicken? That's the sound it makes when it falls out of the can, okay?
It's a jelly.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's the nastiest thing you've ever seen. But people can do it. People can chickens.
Yeah, a lot of people can, will jar meat. They'll cube it up and put it in the jar and store it up and then make it into a soup or whatever with it later on.
So do I have to kill the chicken before I can it, or how does that work?
I've seen feathers come out with those things, so however you want to handle it. When I was on a farm, I was a little kid, and I used to work on a farm, and it was the nastiest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, if you've seen someone wring the head off a chicken, that's and the chicken runs around, and the guy's just standing there holding the head in his hand and laughing. It's like a David Lynch movie. It's terrible. Hog slaughtering day.
My grandmother killed 2 chickens at the same time, one in each hand. Just twist her neck. They snapped off. They run around the yard. And she pitches the heads over the fence to the dogs who were barking. And it was something to see when you're like sick.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And then I remember this is probably why I hate poodles to this day. This farm I worked at, they had hogs, and it was hog slaughtering day. And it's funny because you're in Kentucky, and this all took place in Ipsatucky, Michigan, Ypsilanti, which is full of Kentucky people. And they got them, and there's just like a pile of mess underneath where they've gutted them, and all these little poodles are just lapping it all up, and these white poodles are basically red, and then from like that day on, I'm like, poodles are nasty.
Oh, it's just all dogs. My brother and I grew hogs when we were kids. We both had a sow each, and we'd have about 3 litters a year, and every after they get up to be about a month or 2, maybe a couple months old, you'd have to take the mountain oysters and get them out of there. So we would be we called it cutting the hogs. You had to grab them by the back legs, flip them over on their back, pin their back legs down, take a scalpel and remove the offensive parts. And the dogs would be standing there outside the barn just waiting to catch. It was the biggest treat for the dogs. 3 times a year, they follow us around all the time waiting for.
I was watching a Dirty Jobs with Micro, and he was at a sheep farm, I think, and they were doing that, but instead of removing those with a knife, they'd cut a slit and remove them with their teeth.
Oh my gosh!
And pull them out because it was quicker and easier. What's that, Troy?
I think they saw it coming.
Put new meaning to dirty in the Dirty Jobs.
Yeah. So
No, we didn't bite them off. I can tell you that.
That's terrible.
We did wait 1 year until they got too big. They were probably 160 pounds or so, 140, 160 pounds.
Are we talking about the pigs and not the offensive parts? Okay.
Yeah. If they were that big, I wouldn't have messed with them. But it was like grabbing a hold of a jackhammer and get a hold of the pigs and try to flip them over and hold on to them. And it was all you could do.
So let's.
All I wouldn't want to do.
Let's touch on. So yeah, like Troy said, you can pretty much anything. There's really great canning books. We have some resources in the show notes.
And the Norwegian people, they can't fish. I mean, you can can.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the Jews with their gefilte fish. I only say it because I'm Jewish, so I can take that word. Those Jews, gefilte fish. What is that? Right? I've never had it. I've seen people eat it because it doesn't look like a fish. I think it's like 6 different fishes and they grind together and then they put in some sort of jelly. Yeah, it's nasty looking. So I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a tactile kind of person when I look at food. If it's nasty, it's not going in this. And I'm a big guy. If you see me like on the street, you'd be like, that dude, it's going to be in that movie 7 where he eats himself to death. Right? So, yeah, I'm not. If it looks nasty, I don't even eat what was that, SpaghettiOs, because those just look too funky to me. It's like red blood cells. I'm not going there.
So let's hit on soil, location, and quality.
Big thing. Michigan is terrible. We're very sandy here, sandy and full of clay. So you got to be aware of that. We grow a lot of corn here. We grow a lot of potatoes here, and soy. That's our main crops here in Michigan. And I don't know how that handles. And that's commercial crops. But for the most part, in your backyards, you have to import a lot of your own personal soil, whether it's by the bag or having a truck dump it at your location. Like I said, it's very sandy here due to the glacier movements. Very rocky, very clay-like. I don't know. Kentucky is probably pretty good.
Well,
Ohio's really good.
Yeah, Kentucky's got a little bit of everything. We've got flat ground out to the western part of the state. Then the eastern part is just hills and more hills. And right in the middle where I live at is sort of a mix. Just depends on the county you're in. Where we're at, we have a lot of red clay and a lot of limestone, limestone bedrock. So our property, my wife's and my property, we've got a lot of red clay, so we had to bring in topsoil to actually have a good garden. And then we plant our corn down in a bottom, the back of our property, because there's a lot better soil down there, a lot better water. So just location.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, a lot of new markets here in Michigan is wine. We've seen a lot of wine, either cherry or grape. And Traverse City, everyone says, Washington, D.C. is the cherry capital of the world, but actually it's Traverse City, Michigan. And they make tons of cherry wine, and because of the seasons, they make iced cherry wine. When it's colder out, you get it at the last minute, so it's supposed to be sweeter. But so you'll see a lot of a wine market here, and of course we have the best beer in the U.S., Bell's Beer, out of Kalamazoo. Yeah, shout out, give me some free beer. So anyhow, talking about soil and stuff, it's going to be so hard based on so many different locations and depending on your listeners. You really got to just
right.
If you live in an area with terrible soil, you're going to look at Home Depot, Lowe's, or Menards, or whatever your personal home outdoor place is, home improvement store is that you have, and you're going to have to buy dirt, or you just start composting. Composted dirt works great. Right. And another thing too, at the end of the year, if you don't own a tiller, it's kind of helpful. Even if you just go out and rent one, you don't have to pull your plants out of the ground. You just put them right back in there by tilling the soil. A lot of the nutrients are sucked out of your soil by your plants. Potatoes are infamous for just stealing minerals and vitamins out of the earth. So if you just till those plants right back in there, it adds it back in. Table scraps, throw them out there in the fall. Obviously you don't want to put meat out there because meat attracts animals and it's not really good as a garden compost. But if you want to start a garden a couple years out and you're kind of planning this whole thing out, start a compost pile right where you want to grow your garden. And that way, it's just going to be so rich and so much nutrients in there.
Yeah, and another thing to consider is getting a soil tester kit where you can test the pH levels of your soil.
Does Brownell sell that?
And maybe.
I'll have to look.
And that way you can, kind of figure out what you need to add. Maybe you don't need completely new soil. Maybe you just need to add some fertilizer or, some, element that you're missing there. To get things imbalanced. And, the other thing is you could check with local farmers. Maybe they have free, fertilizer that you can get from there, like a local horse farm or something.
Horses.
You can get some really good fertilizer there.
Horses.
There are a lot of chicken barns around here that raise thousands and thousands of chickens, and the farmers get that clean out every spring about this time of the year, and they'll spread it on their fields, and then we get this lovely aroma for about 2 or 3 weeks. Enough to wash it down in the soil, but it's good fertilizer. It's
you just have them swing through your backyard, Troy.
All right. We've got a lot of distillers around here too. We've got a lot of whiskey makers, and so you can go get the after product of all that process, which is a mucky, stinking mess that that also they spread on the fields around. And so there's a lot of free things out there if you're near any kind of farming area or even food production areas that you can get for compost material.
All right.
Yeah,
do we want to touch on harvesting really quick? Any harvesting tips?
Yeah, I guess harvest in the fall.
Well, one thing that we made a mistake of was we planted everything at the same time, and so we had a lot of things coming ripe at the same time, and so a lot of things were, we didn't have time to process it fast enough that it went to waste. So we've learned to plant, about every week or two out. If you got if you have a long enough season that you can do that, but sort of do it in cycles so that you'll have some maturing at different points in time, so you're not all trying to process everything within a 2 or 3 week span and just wear yourself out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you want to also, when you plant, you might want to move with the idea of staggering the end result. Because if everything comes to fruition all at once and you eat fresh off the vine, you can only eat so much stuff before you're like, screw this, man. I'm getting a burger at McDonald's.
Right. And if you're trying to can too, it's just too much to try to do all at one time.
Yeah.
If you're putting anything away.
Right. So
yeah, and I'm like a camel. I just feed the hump until it just. You never know when your next meal's coming, so I'm eating it all now.
That's right. The fattest of us are going to be the ones that survive the apocalypse.
That's
longest.
Right. We'll be laughing.
Depends on if they turn to cannibalism fast or not.
Yeah, that's true too. We're screwed.
So
you're like a buffalo. Can't outrun them.
All right, so we talked about canning. What are some other options? Freezing, having a root cellar, because you can. I don't know. Maybe you guys know more than I do, but the concept of a root cellar. Every house used to have a root cellar.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we keep the retarded people now. Are we allowed to say that word? Can we take it? I'm just taking it back.
Okay.
No, it's the attic. We keep them in the attic.
Aaron's opinions are not that of Gun Guy Radio.
Or God and Guns podcast.
Hey, don't blame me. I didn't make them that way.
So root cellar is, I guess, it needs to be a place that's dry and dark
right.
and fairly cool.
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays, we have, those of us that have basements have modern basements that may be finished, so they may be just as warm as the upstairs. They may be well lit. So, having a root cellar is something you may have to, make some changes to an area of your basement to have that kind of environment. But, a root cellar would allow you to store squash and like potatoes, sweet potatoes, different kinds of things like that. Apples, things.
Yeah,
things
every house has a root cellar in it. Every house has a root cellar in it. It's just that it's not called a root cellar. It's underneath your sink. And I'm not. Yeah, I know it sounds silly, but if you look underneath your sink, you can put your potatoes under there. I know people keep their trash cans and their cleaning solvents under there, but for the most part, they hold almost the same conditions as an old root cellar because it's dark, it's dank, it's not always completely dry, but it's not horribly moist down there. The conditions are actually really close to a root cellar. Just throwing it out there, yeah.
So, what other methods of storage? Dehydrating? Have you guys? I've never had a dehydration, unit or whatever. Have you guys experimented with that?
I had dehydrated ice cream once at the Smithsonian. That was good.
Is that astronaut ice cream?
Yeah, it's good stuff. I don't think I can make it at home though. I got an ice cream maker though.
So I've seen these dehydration kits. I guess you call them, where they have racks where you chop up whatever it is. It can be almost anything. And you slice it up and then you lay them on these racks, and then I guess does it have like a motor that pulls the
usually has like a fan and
moisture?
It's like a dehumidifier, basically.
Is that what it is?
Basically, I mean, when I was a kid, I remember in school we cut up apples and hung them on a string, and they all dried out, and it was like dehydrated apples. Mm-hmm. They tasted pretty good. I like food, I like apples, so I like them. But I mean, I like jerky though. So if I think, and that's one. If I were to hunt, I'm not a hunter. The only thing I shoot at is targets. But if I ever shot a deer, that whole thing, tenderloin and all, would just be made into a big piece of jerky. I would just have them debone it and leave the shape, and just make it into a big thing of jerky that I could just put in the corner of the room and just gnaw on it. So I love jerky. That stuff's good.
I don't think it works with a whole deer. I think you need to.
I bet you could do it. I mean, not the eyes or anything. That'd be nasty.
I think the maggots would take it over before it dried out.
Get a little furry.
I'll tell you what, it wouldn't last that long. I'd ride it around. I'd carry it with me. It would gather no moss. I'll tell you that.
You can buy a lot of different types of dehydration racks and things like that, and you can just use your own oven, put it at the lowest setting, leave the door cracked open, and my mother-in-law just bought a new oven, and it has a dehydration setting in it, so you can put the other accessory racks in there and dehydrate in this new oven of hers.
Yeah, you can use your dryer. I wouldn't use my dryer, but I'd use your dryer. No, you really can't use a dryer.
Throw your deer in, let it run for 6 days.
Right, the deer. Yeah, the seasoning's really the hard part to get in there, but you just keep throwing it in there. It spins around. You're all set. Oh, man, I think we just made something. If George Foreman's listening right now, he's like, really? Great. I'll get this going. Dehydrate a full deer. Yeah, no, but I think the classic way of smoking your old foods, curing it, brining. There's a lot of different ways that you can go about preserving vegetables and food. I tried to make pickles once, and I tell you what, they were so terrible. I used because you can buy like packs, like little seasoned packs you put in there into your cucumber moisture mix, water mix, and vinegar and all that stuff. But we're like, no, I'm just going to look at a recipe on the internet and just see what I have in my spice rack, and they tasted terrible. So live and learn. But I like pickles too. Pickles and a giant deer. That's what I'm going to get.
You can, and we're talking about vegetable gardens, but with meats, you can salt cure meat, and you can sugar cure meat. But before refrigeration, you can pack them down in sugar, or you pack them down in salt, and they'll last a lot longer. Not years, but they'll last, several months, get you through the winter months.
Saltpeter works too.
So, do we want to touch on, I guess we already touched on, goats, chickens? So, if you want to get into the
I see on your list
poultry.
Yeah, one of the things you don't want to have, I see on your list, is rabbits. And not because rabbits are small and bony. It's the fact that rabbits actually have no nutritional value whatsoever. They're so hyper. You know, I don't even know the word I'm looking for.
They don't have fat.
Yeah. Their metabolism is so fast that you could eat rabbits every day for every meal and actually starve to death. So
that's your wild rabbits. Domesticated rabbits, ones you're feeding, they get pretty fatty.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good point. I'm just used to.
Yeah, but wild rabbits, you're right. If you eat rabbit, you'll just die because you won't get enough nutrition out of them to process the intake.
Yeah.
So you just keep getting weaker and weaker.
So last year I raised some chickens and ducks.
Did you?
And I only.
How many ducks did you raise?
5.
What did you name them?
Donald. No.
You didn't name them? No, that's terrible.
I don't name them.
Did you eat them?
Yes. Butchered
you didn't name them?
And no, am I supposed to?
Yeah, you got. If you're going to eat them, you got to name them.
I thought it was the other way around.
Richard tastes great, you know. You don't want to be like, which one's this one? You'd be like, this is duck number 4. Yeah. That doesn't work.
Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when you say you butchered them, did you take them to a butcher shop and they butchered it for you, or did you actually physically cut its head off and gut it and defeather it and all that stuff?
I cut their. Well, yeah, I did. I did all myself. I tried a couple different methods to off them, and I found that
left some pills next to him. Suicide, hopefully. Right? Yeah. No.
Now we can do this the easy way or the hard way.
So how'd you end up doing it?
Well, I liked the log stump and the axe method the most. So.
Oh, okay.
But I tried slitting their hanging them upside down and slitting their neck and letting them bleed out. I tried that, but I'm too impatient. That took too long. So to the log and
that's good. We can get
But I tell you what, I raised the white Pekin ducks, the big ducks, and they're just such a pain to pluck.
Did you boil them first?
Yeah. So chickens and ducks, you basically cut the heads off, you dunk them in boiling water, and it will kind of make the feathers release. On chickens, the feathers pull out like nothing if you do that. But these ducks, they have all these down feathers and everything, and it just takes forever to get all the feathers off the ducks. So I probably won't do ducks again, but the chickens are fairly easy. You pull all the feathers off, and then you basically gut them and then cut them up, or you can freeze them whole as well. But
you can can them too.
Yeah, I can't get them to fit.
A bigger jar.
So, did the ducks lay eggs?
They were just starting to when I butchered them, but
that's a good reason to keep them around right there.
Right, and we go through a lot of eggs. So this year, if I get them again, it'll probably be for eggs. Because
a goose has a huge, obviously, goose egg.
Right. Well, really, and I like the ducks better because they're a lot smarter than the chickens. The chickens are just so stupid. They're just dumber than any animal.
They're basically plants.
So if
you're
are.
a vegetarian and listen to the show, they're a plant. You can eat them. It's cool.
I know, exactly. Why would you not eat a chicken? But the ducks are really smart. I could tell them to go inside at night, and they would listen to me and go in. But the chickens are just dumber than
and then you cut their heads off.
The trouble we have with chickens around here is between the hawks and the raccoons and the possums.
Well, we lost over half of ours, or about half of ours. We lost to owls, the great horned owls.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool to watch, though.
Well, it happened at dusk or dark, so we really couldn't see it happen. But
get a trail cam out there. Come on.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Maybe I'll sacrifice some this year.
To the great owl gods.
Top of a post, put a trail cam. I think Peter would get you with that
one. Chickens are dirty and nasty. They you know what?
Anyways,
they really do look reptilian too.
Anyways,
all scaly legs and stuff.
I forgot my whole point to that was that I only fed them feed in the early spring when, there wasn't much outside for them to eat. But once, the grass greened up and everything, then I didn't feed them a thing. I just gave them water, and they ate off the land the whole year. And they grew, the ducks grew plenty big, the chickens grew, to a pretty good size. So, that goes to show that, you can raise chickens just, grass-fed, I guess,
Yeah. You're like an Amish man now.
I am.
You made me some wicker furniture.
I need to work on my beard.
And a hat. They got some cool hats.
And my suspenders. Anyways, so let's take a little break here, and then we'll talk about some resources that we have in the show notes. So this week's episode is brought to you by LA Police Gear, lapolicegear.com. And this week, I want to tell you about something pretty cool that LA Police Gear did. So I was off for a few weeks because we had our fourth child, a son, and LA Police Gear just out of the blue sent a baby gift, I guess. They sent the Tac Teddy, the LA Police Gear tactical teddy bear. That's right. You see him?
Yeah, so I see him. Am I allowed to comment on him?
You only got one fang. What's up with that?
Yeah, he's got a fang. He's got like a scar on his eye.
Under his eye.
And then he's got the classic I Love Mom tattoo.
He's wearing the colors of the Crips, Crips. So he must be in the gang.
He's got
a donut belly, dude. Look at that.
Yeah, he's put on some weight. Yeah. But he's also has.
You ever eat a bear?
He also has a place on the back for a mole patch or some kind of patch. You can put your kid's name on his back, or I was thinking maybe if you get all tacked up in your own chest rig, you could like stick him to your chest rig and look cool.
You know what though? All jokes aside, that's actually really cool that they did that.
Isn't that cool? No, I had no idea they even carried this, but this would be a great gift if you know someone having a baby or something.
How embarrassed are they with the fact that they find out that it's not your kid?
Not my kid. What?
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
This one, now that you mention it, this one does look a little different. But yeah, check out the LA Police Gear Tac Teddy, and it's pretty cool. And so you can also, if you order $89 or more at LA Police Gear, you get free shipping, and they also have the 365-day return policy. So pretty cool. And they always have great.
In that?
Say that again.
You can still carry in the bear there. Has it got a slot to put a gun in?
I don't know. Maybe we can give him a little holster.
What was the movie that had the pig? Had the gun in the pig.
The Muppets.
Oh wait.
A pig.
Here we go. He's got
Red.
He's got a little gun here. Here we go.
Oh, cool. He's got his own gun.
No, I got this at SHOT Show. It's a USB drive, but that's about the right size.
Oh,
huh?
Yeah.
Here.
He's like, "Where's Harry's Armory?"
He needs like a belt to stick his gun in. I don't know. All right. So, anyways, Tac Teddy, check him out. LA Police Gear.
Yeah, only $89, free shipping. That's pretty cool.
And the Tac Teddy's only $9.99. You can't beat that.
Yeah, and if you buy 10 of them, free shipping.
That's right. Stock up. No, seriously.
Get them while they're hot.
You gotta get enough to cover your whole chest rig with them.
No one's going to mess with a guy covered in teddy bears.
I know, right?
He could have any gun he wants in his hand. He'd be like, no one's going to take him seriously, covered in teddy bears. Perfect. It's almost like camouflage.
Exactly.
Urban camouflage.
A camouflage of cuteness.
That's right. He's going to run at you with a gun. Everyone's going to be like, "Aw."
All right, and Duluth Trading Company makes this episode possible as well. So if you have maybe a plumber's butt issue, you can check out LA Police Gear and get that long tail tee to cover that up. And
you mean Duluth?
Oh, what did I say?
LA Police.
I'm mixing up my ads.
I'm here to help you out.
It looks like the bear could use a long tail tee from what I saw.
Yeah, maybe we can get him a little long tail tee. He's kind of indecent there a little bit. But back to Duluth Trading Company, DuluthTrading.com. You can also check out their Buck Naked underwear. Maybe if you need some more freedom of movement.
Yeah, I'm looking at that stuff. It actually looks very.
They also have the the buck naked man can boxer briefs. They come in a can, the man can.
Because a man can.
That's right.
Good man
can. Oh, Prince Albert came in one, I guess.
That's right. No pinch, no stink, and no sweat. Buck naked underwear. So check it out, DuluthTrading.com. You can go to GunGuyRadio.com/Duluth to take you there. So
some nice looking socks. I like socks.
So we have some recommendations here. Troy's book recommendations section of the show. So Troy, why don't you tell us what you have here?
Oh yeah, when I got into prepping, there was several books that I found really helpful, and so I just put those in the show notes here. First one would be the Encyclopedia of Country Living. It's sort of like if you ever saw the Foxfire series of books, it's like all those shoved into one and organized in a fashion you can actually use. So it's real helpful. It's covers lots of different subjects, lots of different things you would need to know about as far as planting, cooking, raising livestock, canning. It covers it all. And it's not that much to cover all those different topics. And I put a link in there that you can find on Amazon. Blue Ball. Go ahead.
For a penny.
I didn't find it for a penny, but
no, I'm just kidding.
You might search around eBay and find it cheaper. I don't know but wherever you buy books at. Blue Ball book. Guide to preserving it. I think that thing's like 100 years old or something, and it's but you can find those everywhere. But I put a link in there for that. That just shows you how to do the canning, different recipes, and then putting food putting food by is the name of the book. And right now today I found it on Amazon for a penny.
Ah, see, there it is.
There it is. And if you live in a small, you don't have a lot of area to grow, raised bed, small gardening. We talked about earlier that all new square foot gardening. This is like a new edition of the original book, the Square Foot Gardening. It talks about raised beds or small area gardening, and it's a really good resource. And you could find the original book. I bought it for a penny on Amazon, as I had said earlier. And then I just put some blog links in here. If you've ever heard of Survival Blog or James Wesley Rawls, there's all kinds of free resources on there. You can go in there and search and find all kinds of articles about canning, gardening, and all kinds of prepping things. And then I just put some other links in there. I don't know if you want me to go through all of these or not, Jake. But
sorry, I was muted. Yeah, just real quick, just hit on them.
Survivalblog.com, if you're new to prepping, there's all kinds of things you can find in there. If you go, I think it's survivalblog.com/newbies or newbie, it'll tell you what you need to start out with as far as that. The Prepper project tells you how to raise a garden. It's just a good blog about raising a garden, what size you'll need for your family. And then I've been looking into aquaponics. We didn't really talk about that during the main portion of the show, but where you have the fish provide your nutrients for your plants, and your plants, provide for the fish. It's sort of its own little ecosystem, circulating the water, through the plants and filtering back down into the fish. And so it's a nice little ecosystem. You can build those as small or as large as you want to, but they produce a lot more produce, and plus you have fish for your food. So if you've got a little bit more space, you can set them up. I've seen, you can.
What kind of fish would you add?
Tilapia is one of the main ones, but there's other fish. Depends on where you live at. Some fish are more cold water. Tilapia around here, because we usually have a pretty warm winter.
Goldfish are tasty.
Yeah. But you can use goldfish, just to, provide the nutrients for the plants. It's like,
and that also helps you eat insects like mosquitoes and stuff, because if you have water and if it's standing water,
right.
Mosquitoes will just populate your entire backyard. So like fish will eat the eggs and such, which is good, Yeah. So
I'm told my wife I think that'll be one of our next projects. We've we're planning on doing bees this summer, and if I'm able to, I'm going to dig a pond to stock for fish. Was our two main projects this year, and probably we'll do chickens.
Hang out with you.
Yeah, come down.
You like my. Yeah, Kentucky. You know, I used to work in Nashville, so I used to drive through Kentucky all the time, and it's beautiful, man. It's mountainy. It's blue. It's green. It's horsey. It's gardeny. It's farmy. Shawarmy. No shawarma though. No chicken shawarma. Disappointment there.
Oh, very cool.
What are you gonna do?
And the God and Guns podcast has a few episodes on prepping, episodes 16, 39, and 57, which are all linked up in the show notes here. And I've been doing a YouTube channel of the week most weeks, and I'm not doing a specific channel this week, but YouTube is such a great resource for this topic. Mm-hmm. Just type in backyard garden, and you have 400,000 results. Anything you could think of, just search for it. Backyard chickens, how to butcher a chicken. That's how I figured out how to butcher a chicken. YouTube.
How to choke them. But, before you go any further, I just want to point out, if you're going to do a garden, the best thing you can do is buy some graph paper and plan it out. Don't just walk through the store and want it to look like, and plan it out. It just helps a little bit better than just kind of just throwing buckshot of seeds in the ground.
Make sure you mark what you planted, where you planted it, so you'll know what's growing.
Yeah, that's helpful too.
Right. Is this a weed? Is this a plant? What is this?
It's weed. That's a plant.
No, not that kind of weed.
We're in Colorado now. Come on, man.
Welcome back to the Gun Guy Radio Product Spotlight segment with Brownells correspondent Paul Levy. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Hey, Jake. I'm doing well. How about you?
It's going good. We're back to shotguns here. So we're talking about shotgun extensions for the Benelli brand, the Benelli M1 and M2 line. Looks like these are made by Lancer, and they're actually carbon fiber. Really?
Correct.
Carbon fiber? Is that right?
Yeah. Lancer, who's pretty well known for producing some very nice AR-15, M16 magazines, they're diving into magazine extensions. And this one here, we're going to be carrying these for the Benelli, which is easily the most popular gun amongst the three gun shooters. And this is what this is really designed for. It's great for saving weight on that gun, especially when you're swinging, moving to the next target. You don't want a lot of weight out there. You already got all your shells and extra weight out there anyways. This just reduces that. Really pretty impressed by these. It is indeed carbon fiber. Here I can get the whole tube in one shot. This is the +5 model, but we're going to be carrying the +7 as well. And it's pretty impressive. When you pick it up, it's pretty impressive how much lighter it is than an aluminum tube or a steel, especially a steel. This one here is 2.7 ounces. This is nothing. Again, carbon fiber tube.
Very durable as well.
Yeah. A carbon fiber tube, essentially you don't have any exposed corner on it. So it's just a tube which is structurally very sound for carbon fiber, and then it's capped with an aluminum end cap to retain the shells. And then on this end you have the portion that will thread on to the end of your existing factory magazine tube. So this clamps in place. This is aluminum as well, and then carbon fiber all up through here. Currently in 12 gauge, and it does come with a new spring because you're going to have to cut that a little past. They recommend, I believe, 10 to 12 inches or so past your tube, so you can get the proper length, so you get those rounds properly feeding. You're not going to be able to retain your existing spring. Really pretty impressive. We normally don't see a whole lot of innovation for magazine tubes. We sell some fantastic tubes at some great price points, but it's always cool to see someone bring new materials to an existing product and make improvements there. And these are going to be $89.99, I believe, and then $199 for the 7, and that's due to the extra carbon fiber material because that is a pretty substantial amount of carbon fiber. And then this is not just some painted or dipped aluminum tube either. That's actually they're using actual carbon fiber and using it properly. If you've ever looked at their magazines or the other products, they know how to properly engineer stuff. It's really pretty cool.
Absolutely. You can add a little extra flair to your shotgun while you're at it. But.
Oh, there you go. I didn't think about that. Now that you mentioned that, it is a good looking product. It's well finished. There's not where they cut the carbon fiber. It's not exposed or there's not any carbon fiber dust left over. It's cleaned up well, and also the interior. It's very smooth, the inside of the carbon fiber. So you're not going to have your shells hanging up on any lips or bumps or ridges in there. So it's well thought out and really well done.
When you're looking at shotgun extension tubes, that can be a problem sometimes. Mm-hmm. But very cool. Yeah, it looks like a very good option for you Benelli M1 and M2 owners out there. The +5, for $89.99. That's not bad at all. So
that's right in line with some current tubes. So really, you're basically at that point choosing, well, do I want carbon fiber or do I want aluminum? And the benefit with the aluminum, you probably wouldn't want to mount a clamp to attach your barrel on this. I probably wouldn't recommend that. With the aluminum, if you want to do that and that's where you want to mount your sling or a light, you'll probably opt for the aluminum. But if you're if you're focused on competition, weight savings, this is probably your option to go with.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have links in the show notes or in the bottom of the YouTube video if you're watching the video. So more next week. So thank you so much, Paul.
No problem. Talk to you then.
All right. Well, we're to the Brown Nose giveaway where we talk about what we're giving away for the month of March, and we're giving away Nebraska Star beef jerky. That's right. The Lucky Brand Outdoorsman beef jerky. So, this goes right along with what we're talking about. If you need a little stash to get you through, just look no farther than Nebraska Star beef jerky. And we're giving away a few of these multi-flavor 12-packs, and they come in their own ammo can as well. So pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And if you order enough of them, you can actually physically build an entire deer from them. And you can
reverse engineer your deer idea, right?
That's right. Because obviously no one's taking it forward the other way.
Anyways, to get entered for the Brown Nose giveaway, you simply subscribe to the Gun Guy Radio newsletter by going to gunguyradio.com/winner, or the right-hand column of gunguyradio.com is an easy form you fill out. And last month we gave away the Series 3 AR multitasker tool to 2 people, and we're still waiting to hear from Brady Brown. He must not use the email that he signed up with. So, Brady Brown, if you got about another week, and then I'm going to draw another name. So that
I say draw it now. Brady, you missed the boat, man. Come on now.
I know.
Come on.
I know. Come on. All right. Well, let's say goodbye. So, Aaron, We Like Shooting podcast. What do you guys have going on?
Right now, this is really great. We do a lot of reviews on our site. We do our show on the Firearms Radio Network, which, honestly, we really appreciate the efforts you, Jake, put in and your team on helping us out. But what we are doing right now is a pledge drive. If you go to WeLikeShooting /pledge, or WeLikeShooting.com/pledge, it'll take you to a site where you can pledge to help support our show, give us better equipment, allow us to purchase stuff. And it's all tiered, so if you pledge a ton of money, you can actually end up getting some of the gear that we test back, or you get it for yourself.
What level do I pledge for the beef jerky deer?
You know what? I'll tell you what. If we get $200 an episode worth in pledges, I will make one personally and send it to you. All right, and actually, if we get $250, if we get $250 in pledges per episode, my co-host Nick Lynch will get my face tattooed on his posterior. So that's a goal right there. I mean, and listen, if you want to pledge, if you want to be part of this, you can as little as a nickel and as much as you want, or little as a penny, to be honest with you. we actually had a person email me and just say, "Can I just send you a check?" And yeah, you can. So it's a great thing. And even if you don't want us to give us, we made a great video, a commercial. So if you just go to the website, you can watch the commercial and laugh and enjoy it.
Very cool. So, Troy, Gun and Guns podcast, what do you got going on?
Well, we've our weekly show, for those that haven't listened, Doug McDowell and myself, we do a little bit of a comedy section. We do a Bible verse and break that out.
What was this week's?
Pardon?
What was this week's Bible verse?
Last week's Bible verse? I don't know.
Okay, I guess it would be.
A week ago.
No, I put you on the spot. What's the 10th commandment? Yeah, sorry.
Okay, but we do a weekly Bible verse. We break that out on the show and discuss what that means, and then we'll talk about what we've done in guns. We have a main topic section. This last week's show was a prepping show. It was the end of the world part 2 because Mike and Zach had done the original end of the world prepper show, and so Doug and I did our own and went over some of the topics like we talked about this week. And then we have a weekly giveaway. We've been giving away Gun and Gun podcast T-shirts, and this week's show, you just have to come check it out. We'll be recording that later this evening. So it'll be cool, whatever it is.
Awesome.
That's very cool, yeah.
So, I'd like to mention Ryan Cross, Hunter Design. If you're looking for any artwork, website design, Ryan Cross, he does all the artwork for the Firearms Radio Network. Very good stuff. He did the Gun and Guns podcast artwork, which is pretty awesome.
And I'm a graphic designer. I have 12 years experience. I've been doing it forever. We here at We Like Shooting actually hired him to do our logo. So, that's how good he is. I've been doing it for 12 years, but I like his work so much we actually are paying him to do ours. So check him out for sure. It does great work.
Awesome.
So, hunterdesign.com. And that about wraps up the show for this week. You can share feedback by leaving a comment below this video or at the bottom of the show notes for episode 112 of Gun Guy Radio. Remember to subscribe to us in iTunes and leave us that iTunes review. And join organizations like the NRA and the Second Amendment Foundation. And also don't forget to shop our affiliate links with Brownells, gunguyradio.com/satisfaction, or with Amazon. Amazon.com I'm sure you all shop there already, so you can give back a little bit to the network by going to firearmsradio.tv/Amazon before your next shopping spree. And also check out the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network, like Gun and Guns Podcast or We Like Shooting Podcast, and Handgun Radio hosted by Ryan Machad. Really good information on all things pertaining to handguns. His last episode was especially good, where he had a special guest on, Ian McCullum, and he talked about forgotten weapons, and he talked about some really unusual, some really fascinating handguns. So check him out, handgunradio.com. Well, that wraps up this episode. Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.